Howdy everyone, it's me Crimsyn, and I'm so excited to be a part of this year's NYX Cosmetics FACE Awards. Now let's go ahead and get started with this makeup. We've got a lot to cover. I covered my brows and my sideburns off camera and popped in some contacts, and now I'm using the NYX Cosmetics Pore Filler Primer as well as the NYX Cosmetics Jelly Primer to really get my skin tacky for the foundation and products about to be applied. I always start my drag looks on my eyebrows, and I'm using the NYX Face and Body Paint in color brown to really slap on those eyebrows. And I'm not worried about the shape because we're about to clean them up. I'm warming up the jumbo eye pencil in milk on the back of my hand and taking a small brush and applying that on my brow to really get precise lines and the sharpness to the brows because I find them to be really important. To cut out the top of the brows, I'm mixing Light Ivory and Buff of the Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation, and then I will apply that to the rest of the forehead as well. To add some highlight, I'm going in with the Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer in shade Alabaster and buffing that out with a sponge. For contour, I use the Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer in the shade Mocha and blend that out as well. Additionally, I'm placing this product on my brow bones to create a great base for my eyeshadow. Once everything is blended to my liking, I use the SFX Set Loose Setting Powder and pat everything in place. Moving on to the eyeshadow, I'm using the Modern Dreamer palette and picking 3 warm tone browns and buffing those in from lightest to darkest and then putting black on the outer corner. Moving on to the crease, I'm using the Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer in Alabaster again and cutting that crease really sharp with a small brush and making sure it's even on both eyes. Going back into the Modern Dreamer palette, I'm taking that bright gold and putting it on the center of the eye. To blend out the rest of the crease, I'm using those warm brown shades we used before from the Modern Dreamer palette, and I'm blending those in and using the darkest ones on the outer edge of the eye. With my finger, I dab on the brightest gold shade from the Galactica Glitter Goals palette. Once the majority of the eyes are complete, I'm going in with the Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation again, Buff and Ivory, mixing those together on my face and then continuing that down on my neck and eventually on my chest to create a good base for the words that I'll be writing there later. To contour the face, I'm going in with the Mocha concealer again and applying that on the cheeks, the tip of the nose, and along the jaw and buffing that out with a sponge. To highlight, I'm using the Alabaster concealer and putting that under the eyes, the sides of the nose, the top lip, the chin, as well as the bridge of the nose. Once everything is blended out to perfection, I'm using the SFX Loose Setting Powder again and setting everything in place. Next, bronzing my face with a large brush using the California Beam-In bronzer in shade Free Spirit. For a deeper contour, I'm actually going in with the darker browns that I used on my eyes just to deepen up those cheekbones and jaw. For blush, I'm using the color Daydream. I love this color. It's literally the perfect blush color. I've been looking for it for so long. Then I go in with my first round of highlighting using the Born to Glow Stand Your Ground. Now onto baking, I'm using the SFX Loose Setting Powder and setting the highlights of my face to reinforce those. Onto eyeliner, I'm using one of my favorite products by NYX is their Epic Ink Liner, and this is what it should look like when it's done, and do a little bit of a cat eye on the inside. Now brushing off the bake, and we can get started with the under eyes. Using the same 3 brown shades I used on the top of my eye, I'm buffing that on underneath my eye, going from lightest to darkest. Then taking that jumbo eye pencil in the color Milk and putting that on the waterline. For lashes, I custom stacked some 301s on top of the Drama Queen lashes. Then coating the lashes with the On The Rise mascara. Now going in with my second highlight, the Stand Your Ground highlight, and I'm using this with a wet brush to really emphasize and give that super duper glow. Moving on to the body paint, I'm using the red Face and Body Paint by NYX Cosmetics to map out the word cancelled. To further the detail and depth to this word, I'm actually going to go in with Epic Ink Liner and the white jumbo pencil as well to add details, but I've sped that up to save time in this tutorial. Moving on to lips, I'm overdrawing them with the NYX Lingerie Liquid Lip in Cabaret Show and then highlighting the middle of the lip with a satin ribbon. Last, using the dark eyeshadow on the outside of the lips to contour them, and we're ready to go. Now moving on to the second makeup, I wiped my chest off from the first makeup and reapplied the foundation colors I used, and now I'm just writing out all the hashtags with the face and body paint in black and red. Now moving on to the main makeup, I covered my brows, my sideburns, and put in some yellow contacts, and I'm going to show you how I got this crazy head shape. First, I put on a wig cap and stuffed it with socks to give it a hard base. Then I started stuffing it with pillow stuffing, also known as like fiberfill or polyfill, to really flesh out the shape. To secure everything, I'm going in with some heavy duty duct tape and putting that on my head so that I can move around the stuffing and make sure everything is secure and not going to move. Next, I apply a second wig cap to smooth everything out, but instead of using tape to attach this one, I'm going to use a heavy duty hairspray and let it dry. Once the hairspray is dried, you can cut off the excess wig cap. Onto applying the bald cap, I pulled it over my head to make sure I could see where to put the glue. Once I know where to put the glue, I'm going to dab on the Pros-Aid with a sponge, and once it dries, I can place the bald cap carefully and slowly where I want it to make sure it's perfect. It is important to take your time during this step to make sure the seam doesn't show later on in the makeup, so feel free to take some extra time and blend everything out and place it perfectly. Once everything is secure and in place, take the Pros-Aid on a sponge and dab over the edge of the bald cap to blend those edges. Once the Pros-Aid is completely dry and not tacky, go ahead and set it with that Special Effects NYX Loose Setting Powder. Now everything is ready for foundation. I'm using a water-based foundation first, because using bald caps, using a cream with your skin, they're going to show up as two different colors. So if you put a water-based foundation on first and then the cream on top of it, you won't get that difference in coloration between the latex bald cap and your skin color. I chose the color green for this character because toxicity, jealousy, and all that stuff that I'm trying to portray pulls me to the color green, as well as kind of purple, because purple and green to me read as poison. And I chose this head shape because it really makes it a creature and less of a person. For the second layer of foundation, I'm using the NYX Cosmetics Face and Body Paint in shade green. And as you can see here, as I was saying earlier, that second layer of cream foundation over top of the water-based really creates this smooth, solid foundation and hides every seam on that bald cap. Once the foundation is applied, I'm using a cream highlight on the center of the face to give brightness and using a lot on the forehead and blending it out with a sponge. Here's what it looks like when it's all blended out. Then you can set with the SFX Loose Setting Powder and set everything so nothing moves. Next, I take some of the darker green shades from the Modern Dreamer palette and I'm mapping out all these crazy contours on my face. This serves as a map guide for later on when I go to blend things out. I chose all these crazy harsh lines and contours because I believe that it creates a juxtaposition from the soft, more beautiful makeup from earlier. Moving on to the eyes, I used those green colors from the palette as well and really buff and blended out the eye socket shape. To cut the crease, I used the gold Face and Body Cream Foundation and then started to set that with the yellow from the Modern Dreamer palette. And look how bright and pigmented that yellow is. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Now taking the dark green from the palette and buffing the edges of the yellow in to blend them and create a halo effect. Now taking the white NYX Jumbo Liner on a small brush and I'm really emphasizing the top of the crease. Then moving on to the bottom of the eye, I'm taking those greens from the palette as well and making a gradient and buffing out that bottom eye socket. To open up the eye more, I'm using the Jumbo White Pencil on a small brush and then also putting that on the waterline as well. Then to create the iris on the middle of the eye, I'm using that gold Face and Body paint from earlier and setting it with that yellow eyeshadow from the Modern Dreamer palette. Lastly, to really define this eye shape, I'm going in with the Epic ink liner and mapping out the eye shape and defining everything super harshly. Onto the brow bone, I use the shades of green again to really buff and blend out that line. To cut the highlight of this brow bone, I'm using the Jumbo White Pencil and blending that out, and then eventually setting it with white shadow. The Jumbo White Pencil has sort of a thick tip, so I'm using a brush most of this tutorial to really get those white, precise, sharp lines. I continue to use the same technique on the cheekbone, buffing the greens below, and then going to cut the cheekbone with the white on top and setting that with white eyeshadow. I do this method on all the lines on the face, taking the greens, buffing them in, going in with black, and then white eventually, and sometimes gold to really give a contrast in there. And here's what it looks like when it's done. Moving to the lips, I'm taking the Epic ink liner and mapping out just a lower lip shape and filling that in. Then I fill the eyelids in with the black body and face paint. Then I create a dramatic inner wing with the Epic ink liner. Using the pigment from the Jumbo White Pencil, I'm giving myself an inner corner highlight. Then of course, shading the ears so they match everything. For the attachments on my face, I just decorated some acrylic nails with the Epic ink liner and the Liquid Lip Glitter Goals in Xfinity. There are about 60 to 70 pieces that I'm using Spirit Gum and Prozade to adhere to my head. I chose these acrylic nails as well as the color purple because they remind me of fangs and poison and snakes and spiders, and I wanted every design portion of this makeup to kind of refer back to this toxic and poison motif that I'm going with. Here's what it all looks like with a little bit of black pearls added as well. Moving on to the chest, I used all these same methods that I used to contour my face, where I took this dark shadow from the Modern Dreamer palette and penciled out the shapes that I wanted, going in with those greens, lighter greens and darkers, buffing all those shadows out, and then cutting it with the NYX pencil and setting that with white powder. To tie the chest to the head and the whole character together, I'm adding more acrylic nails. For lashes, I used some of my spared old lashes for the bottom lashes and used the same custom 301 and Drama Queen lashes from the first two makeups. And once again, using the On The Rise mascara, and I promise I fixed that wonky lash. To get a little creature glow, I'm using the Born to Glow Stand Your Ground highlighter. Now, one of my favorite parts of the makeup was using this Vivid Brights eyeliner in Vivid Halo. It is this bright yellow, and I swear it probably glows in the dark and is neon, but it really gave a great texture all over the creature. Last thing to do is to put this paper on me and paint on some black hands, and we are ready to go. That is all that I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Here's a little blooper of me dancing during the photo shoot. And I would love it if you would vote for me to get into the top 15 for the NYX FACE Awards. And follow me on my social medias listed below.